everybody, it's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, after our recent performance against the Atlanta Hawks, in which we lost in overtime by a buzzer beater with 0.5 seconds left on the shot clock, ladies and gentlemen, the Bulls fell to 3-10 in terms of games that have been put in the clutch situation for this Bulls team, which is definitely a result, I guess, record that no one really expected this Bulls team to have, considering last year we were probably one of the most clutchest teams in the NBA. So I kind of want to talk about what's going wrong for the Chicago Bulls and how we can maybe try to improve this record in the future. Because at the end of the day, some of them are just unlucky. Again, I can at least think of two games that was really unfortunate for the Bulls in which we walked away with losses in. And unfortunately, the record might look a little bit better with those two games under our belt. However, we are losing a lot of games in the clutch, and we need to talk a little bit about that and how we can change that in the future. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls' overall performance in the clutch. Do you think it can be better than what it currently is? And how can it be better than it currently is for this Bulls team? I do have to specify, the reason why I'm making this video is probably because of the Atlanta Hawks game, but I must admit myself, the Atlanta Hawks game, in my opinion, is a rare occurrence. Something that happened with 0.05 seconds left. Yes, the Bulls made mistakes in the final stretches of that game, and especially on that play, a lot of people thought the Bulls made some mistakes in who they brought into the game and which players were playing compared to which players were not playing and everything like that. And those are mistakes. But personally, I do think what happens doesn't normally happen for any other NBA team. That really was a rare, very great play by Atlanta that ended up going with 0.5 seconds left on the shot clock, and we lost that game. It was just really unfortunate that that type of thing had to happen to the Bulls. But I'm looking at towards other games really that kind of make me feel this way. With, again, the Hawks is an outlier in many ways, at least in my perspective. Of course, there were mistakes, but even the Wizards game in the second game of the season where we got fouled on the three-point shot and the 2-minute report said that the Bulls got fouled, those two games are really unfortunate circumstances, and those two games would have easily been different if the Bulls maybe did something different, or if the refs called something different or anything like that, but it just wasn't meant to be. But for the most part, we are still losing these clutch games, and we need to talk about why. I think the answer might be a bit obvious, but I have to say more than just the main answer, because we know people are going to say it's Zach LaVine's fault, it's DeMar DeRozan's fault, and everything of that nature. They're taking a lot of the shots, it's isolation and hero ball, and I understand that. And look, that is definitely a problem, but for me, I turn to the defense in this type of situation. What happens in clutch games is that you got to make clutch plays. And that is not just on one side of the ball. That's on the defensive side of the ball as well. And that is something that the Bulls, for whatever reason, not doing a great job in. They've constantly, I guess, had games where the defense has let them down in the final ends of the game. Now, there have been other games where that's not been the case, and that's why guys like Caruso become increasingly more important. Even guys like Javonte might become increasingly more important. You expect guys like Zach LaVine and DeMar to be really solid defenders towards the end of the game as well. And when they are playing great defense, that's very important. But for the most part, I can truly say the defense of this team in those final moments of a game, in clutch situations, has been really unfortunate, really bad, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I can list a number of games as to why that is the case, but I turn to that because offensively, yes, we are struggling. We are very stagnant sometimes on the offensive end. Zach LaVine's shots in overtime against Atlanta, extremely disappointing. 3 contested three-point shots in a row that were not necessary to take at that time. Then the next couple of plays, he goes to the bucket and he gets 2 easy dunks. And you just start to think to yourself, what would happen if Zach LaVine actually just went to the basket consistently? He could have broken down the Atlanta Hawks defense and dished it out to open three-point shooters that would probably make those shots. You could easily get a lot more opportunities at the rim, more dunks, more layups. You could get fouled and go to the free throw line, but we're settling for one and dones, and we're settling for offensive, I guess, struggles with contested shots, and that is definitely a big problem. And shot selection in total is a big problem as well, but defensively, I think that's also a problem that not a lot of people are talking about, because we are letting a lot of opportunities go in the clutch that you could easily say is preventable. How many times have you seen a couple of guys drive in to an open lane in the clutch? Honestly, I think I've seen it a lot this year, and that's something that should not be happening in those situations where everybody's got to be focused and ready to win the game. But shot selection is also a huge thing. Zach LaVine's shot selection, DeMar DeRozan's shot selection sometimes. Again, there are certain people that just simply are not stepping up. Some of them are just... Unfortunately, even when they want to step up, they might not be that guy. They might handle clutch situations with a lot of pressure. Whatever it is, I do think we got to fix the shot selection in this team as well. And that starts with being composed, doing the things you were doing all game in the final moments of the game as well. When ball movement is working for you and you go away from the ball movement, you start to see why the Bulls start to struggle, because you're going away from what works. And then you assume that other things might work in the clutch because you've got DeMar DeRozan, you've got Zach LaVine, and you've got a good team that wants to take those final shots at the end of the game. But if you go against what works, most of the time you're not going to end up having a successful time in the clutch. So the Bulls got to be composed, and the Bulls have to do what works for them. They have to continue taking advantage of mismatches. They have to continue to run out in transition. They have to continue to share the ball and pass the ball to open players. One of the biggest things I saw in a positive way was the final end of, I think it was overtime, or maybe it was the fourth quarter, where Coby White got an open corner three-point shot, and he absolutely nails it, ladies and gentlemen. And that was due to good ball movement and running, and things like that work for the Bulls. So we've got to keep going at it. Because again, I do feel like the pressure gets to this team. I feel like there's a lot of expectation and a lot of pressure on this Bulls team to perform, as there should be. But when you go away from things, you're only applying more pressure to yourself as well. So I think the two things to take away from this video, if you're looking at two specific things, I think our defense needs to tighten up in certain scenarios. I think obviously we need to have better shot selection and be more composed on the ball when we do have the ball in our offensive possession. And we've got to keep on sharing the ball as well. And obviously the last thing would be turnovers. The Bulls suffer a lot of turnovers in the final 5 minutes of games. Simple as that. Sometimes we're sloppy. Sometimes we're trying to do too much as well. It's not necessarily the most simplest basketball you could play in the final moments of the game. These types of things, of course, do help. And if we can see those things cleaned up, we'll obviously see a better performance from the Chicago Bulls in the clutch as well. So that's my video discussing the Bulls in the clutch. I've probably already talked a little bit about this in other videos, and again, I think it's a big problem for this Bulls team, but I have to specify the Atlanta Hawks game is mainly the reason why I'm doing this video, but it's not the sole reason why I think these things. Because again, extremely unfortunate circumstances that led to that final buzzer-beating shot by AJ Griffin and the Atlanta Hawks. So yeah, very, very upsetting in that retrospect. And I will put some blame on Billy Donovan and his rotations, but I'm not going to put all the blame on Billy Donovan and his rotations, because these players should have done a little bit more, in my opinion, in clutch situations. Not just the Atlanta Hawks game, but every other game as well. But yes, with Atlanta, you probably could have put different players on and things could have been, I guess, changed, or maybe the way that we've guarded the actual inbound play, something could have been different. But I'm not going to put that solely on Billy Donovan. I'll put that solely on this team and everybody involved. But yeah, in other type of games for the clutch, like the Magic, for example, or the game against the Pelicans the first time around, these types of games against the Raptors, in which we lost as well. Again, there are a lot of games that you could talk about in which we did a bad job in the clutch, and that's why we lost. So these are the ones that I'm looking at and saying we've got to change. We've got to find ways to be more composed. We've got to make sure we share the ball. We've got to focus on less turnovers. We've got to play a little bit more solid defense and clean up on the defensive end. And there are games where, for example, the Nets game, where the Bulls did very, very good. The Bucks game, the Bulls did very, very good. And I believe there was one other game very recently, I think as well, in which Alex Caruso got a couple of offensive rebounds and did the job. I think it was against the Wizards. In all these games, we've been doing well in the clutch. It's not like the Bulls cannot do it, but we're not doing it enough. I hope that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.